Okay, thank you, IBK. Welcome, Lola. Welcome, John. Welcome, IBK. And Oluwapo, I wasn't expecting you in class today from what I saw in your status. Congratulations to your sister. Welcome to class. And Madam Manita, welcome. Others who will join us. Right? I hope we all had a great week. It's good that Lola could join us in class today. Please acknowledge if you can see my screen so that we can all be on the same page. Please acknowledge if you can see me.
Yes, I can.
I can see your screen. I can see your screen.
Awesome. Right, and kudos to everybody that turned in their assignment. I'm really impressed by it. I have replied everybody, and yes, awesome work, everyone. Even Lola, who has been busy, was able to turn in an assignment. John, I was expecting your assignment, but I will pardon you today because you are just joining us. And even though you've seen the videos and all that, but it's all right. Welcome, John. IBK, I didn't get your assignment, and you're going to chop king for that. And Oluwapo, I didn't get your assignment. You and I are going to talk about that. Madam Manita, well done. We can go through the comments that I shared for those who don't do the assignment, and then see what I have to say about it. But kudos to everybody, right? Rome was not built in a day, and little drops of water, little drops of effort makes you a solid SQL developer, right? Makes you a solid SQL developer. So beautiful one, everybody. Beautiful one, everybody. Today we are going to start on a good note, even though. Okay, before we go on, right? Of course, this is not just a class thing. I need I'm planning on starting on that, going into SQL, and that's 3 to 5 minutes. But I need to ask people who are here some questions. And I need to, if you have, how many of us have taken our COVID-19 vaccine, right? Please just let me know if you have been vaccinated, please let me know. Right. I need to ask you a few questions.
I have.
Oh, beautiful. Who else? Who else has been vaccinated? Madam Anita, and Oluwapo, Ibuku, and I have not been vaccinated. You've not been vaccinated?
No.
I can't hear you.
I have not been vaccinated.
Oh, okay. Why? What's stopping you? You don't believe in it, right?
Not that I don't believe in it. Maybe I've not created time to go for it.
All right. I think the only person that has probably been vaccinated here, I've not got a reply from Anu or from John, right? And IBK.
I've been vaccinated as well.
Yes, I know you've been vaccinated. You mentioned that. All right. So Lola, I want to ask you a question, right? When you go vaccinated, right? Did you feel sick? What was the sick?
Yeah, I had fever. I had fever the day after, and then my hand was heavy. Like the vaccine was very heavy.
Oh, how long was the fever? How long?
I had malaria. And I mean, I don't know for other reasons, but it makes it my best factor. Like it still makes it my best factor. So my mental support was very good. So really made me sick.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Hello. All right, beautiful. Right, and the reason why I asked is because I got vaccinated yesterday, and since I've been vaccinated, I am not feeling myself. Presently, I'm not in my top gear at all. I'm feeling very sick, but it doesn't stop me from having a class right now. I've gone to NIT.
I'm so sorry, but I think you should take Tylenol. That's going to help you.
I didn't get that.
Kalino is going to help.
Kalino, please can help me send it as a WhatsApp message. Let me send it on WhatsApp so that I can buy.
Yes, Kalino.
Thank- I can hardly hear you.
Okay.
Just help me send it as an SMS. Please. I mean, message on WhatsApp. Thank you.
All right. I'll do it now. I'll send it now.
All right. Thank you. Right. And yes, my hand is a bit heavy, right? Very heavy. I was active yesterday before I went to get it, but I think, of course, going by what it is, I know that it is some sort of gene engineering that it's going to do. So I think that the response is okay, right? But I feel weak. So if you discover that I'm a bit slow, right, just pardon me. Don't worry. By tomorrow, I'll be on top game, right? And please, if you have not taken your vaccines, the vaccine is not bad. I think you can take it. I think it's safe. I think that we that have not died yet. I know that people have been collecting vaccines for a few months now. I think it just helps you protect yourself. Awesome, beautiful. All right, so let's get to it, right? Let's get to it. It's really good to be here once again, right? I just love talking technology and discussing technology. Awesome. So I want to believe that a few people has gone, or everybody has gone through the video once again, so that you can get a full grasp of what we've done, right? Of what we've done so far. As I do not want to spend so much time doing recap, but if you have a question from what we have done so far, please, I have another 5 minutes to be able to answer you. So please just go ahead and ask your questions so that everybody's on the same page and we're all moving at the same pace in our learning process. So that would work fine for us, right? So please let me know if you have questions. If you have any question, now is the time to ask before we put another level of the knowledge on what we have learned, right? And if the foundation, Bible says that if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do, right? It's not just in the Bible, right? If the foundation of a house is destroyed, right, what can the house do? The house is just going to come down. It's going to crumble. If the foundation of your knowledge is not solid enough, every other thing that we put on it would not stand well. So I need you to help me so that I can help you. Let me know what you do not understand so that we can trash that out before we put another level of knowledge on that. So I'll be waiting. Then also, I want to I've gone through the assignments, right? And I found one particular attempt very amazing, very amazing, very amazing. Although, as much as I want to credit her, I know that she has done SQL before. So I'm not going to give her the full credit because I know that she has done SQL before. She just wants to perfect her knowledge. So she's not a newbie totally. But what she did was really awesome. And I want to share that with you. I hope that you learn from it, right? I hope that you learn from it. So I'm waiting for the questions before I go into that review. Please, if you have any question, now is the time. And yes, if you cannot talk, right, please just send me a WhatsApp message, right? My WhatsApp is on, my phone is with me, so I can easily answer your question. Please, Anolapo, please, you can chat me up here, right? Yes, I don't know what is happening with Microsoft. Even Google, I've been trying to even move this class to Google presently, and those guys are trying to cheat me, and I'm still working on that. Microsoft, some way, somehow, I don't know what happened, but they downgraded my plan that I'm paying for to be able to do all that I'm doing with them. And presently, in fact, not just presently, I've noticed that we cannot use the chat for a while now, right? I'm working on it, and I think the mail they sent to me is that I have to make some payments and all that, which I'm not ready to do, right? But if you need to chat with me, please, my WhatsApp is going, and also, of course, it would create a buzz or activity in our WhatsApp group, so that people who are in class, who could not make class, can also partake as we proceed. They can see the charts and all that, right? And WhatsApp can actually help us keep our charts and our discussions a bit longer than Microsoft Teams, which would delete both the video and the chat in 21 days, right? So please, if you need to chat with me, well, my WhatsApp is on and I can access everything. So please make use of the WhatsApp, our WhatsApp group especially. Just drop it on the WhatsApp group. Or if it's a personal message, just enter my DM, slide in and just drop stuff there. I would read and reply. Awesome. If there is nobody with questions, it means I'm doing a good job. And I want to show you this, right? This is from...
Sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. Please,
Yes,
I have one question.
Please go ahead.
The schema, please, can you go through that schema again so I can understand? The schema.
All right. I'll go through schema.
The schema you talked about in our last class. Please, can you go through it again? Yeah.
I will. Okay.
Okay.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
And
the assignment, sir, please, you can do the correction.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, the assignment, sir, you can do the correction for the assignment.
No problem. I'll do that.
Okay.
All right. So she asked about schema and of course the correction to the assignment, right? I won't call it correction, right? Because I won't call it correction. I'll just say that I do not pride myself as somebody who knows everything, right? But I will say that the best attempt or the way to attempt the question is this, right? So, which is what we're trying to do. So the question was that I asked you to generate 5 different data points, right, or entities, and generate attributes for them. 5 different data points or entities related to what you do, right, and generate entities for them. And truthfully, this is me being very sincere. Every single person had a great attempt at it, right? I'm not joking. Every single person who submitted had a beautiful attempt to it, and I'm really proud, right? In just how many classes you guys are designing databases already? It's really mind-blowing and awesome. Well done, everybody, right? But I found this very exceptional, and I hope you can see my screen. This is the submission from Vivian. She's not in class today. I would have asked her to clap for her. But like I said, she has done SQL before, so I'm not going to really give her all of that. You know what I'm saying? Right now, what you have here is what we call an ER diagram. So she drew an ER diagram, right? Even though it's a partial ER diagram, right? But she drew an ER diagram, right? And it's beautiful because she used the notations that we use in ER diagram to do this, right? And if you remember, we talked about entities and attributes, right? We said the entities are subject points or data points that we collect data for, right? That we collect data for. I think my video is not on so that we can have a more interactive ones. Let me just put on my video so you can see my pretty face. That is me just trying to make myself out. All right, beautiful. So you can see my face, right? Hey, everybody, how you doing? Yeah, I want me to feel it. All right, awesome. So let's go back to class, right? So, so an entity, right, is a subject point or a data point, right, that you of interest that you can collect data for. So if you work in an organization and you want to create a database, right, you need to identify all the necessary data points that you would need, right? All the necessary data points that you would be working with, right? You need to identify them and generate their properties. Remember, we talked about properties, we talked about attributes, and we talked about variables, right? All of that mean the same thing. Properties, column, characteristics, attributes, you can call it anything, right? They mean the same thing. That is, those are the characteristics, the properties of the entity, right? Every entity must have, in fact, what qualifies a subject matter as an entity is that it has attributes, right? It has attributes, And we also call that it has attributes that we can get observations for. That is, we'll talk about all of that as we proceed. Because in the next chapter that we're about to start, that's what we're going to be talking about, right? So what she did was, I'm not sure if this relates to what she does as work or whatever, but what she did was impressive, right? She used the notations, right? Anybody in the world that sees this, right, would have an idea of what she means and will be able to interpret this. This looks like a music score sheet. Right? How many of us know what a music score sheet is? You know, musicians have a way to write out music, right? I think Lola should understand that, and maybe a few people who understand music, right? Musicians, we have a way. Well, I'm not even. I won't call myself a music scorer. But I just play music. What comes to my head, I put it down, and that's always been beautiful, right? I'm not sure we have plenty of them in Nigeria that actually score music, right? But what that means is that when you score a music, right, on the music sheet, and you take that music from Nigeria or from anywhere in the world, any musician that sees that music, any good musician that can read music, would able to interpret and play that music. That's the way it is, right? And that's the same thing she did, right? What she did, right, even though it is not entirely detailed, right, is that anybody who sees this understands what she's doing. And if you look at it, I told you that an entity is marked by a box, right? Like a rectangular box, right? So she puts these employees into this rectangular box, which means that this is the data point. This is the data subject that she's talking about, which is employees, right? And having done that, she now, of course, we also said, I also mentioned in the last videos that we use spherical shapes or circular shapes, right? Or yeah, yes, spheres, right? Spherical shapes to denote an attribute, right? To denote an attribute. So I'll take that again. An entity is denoted by a square, and an attribute is denoted by a spherical shape, like a circular object, right? Like a circle, not entirely a circle, or something like this, right? And that's what she did. So we can see that employees here is an entity, and it has attributes like employee ID, salary, branch, full name, employee's password, and employee's department, right? Which is beautiful, right? That's about 6 attributes for that entity. Then she did the same thing for citizen, right? She did the same thing for citizen as a data point and all its attributes surrounding it. And she has NIN, full name, state of origin, date of birth, place of birth, occupation, local government area, mobile number, address. Isn't that beautiful, right? Then she went ahead to do course, right? Course, the same thing. She did all of that. Then orders, she did the same thing for orders, even though I do not understand what the different colors of blue interprets here, but right? Then she did the last one, product, and product has all of this, right? And she went down and began to draw them out in form of a description of the table. So you have employees and all its attributes, you have citizens and all its attributes, you have costs and all its attributes, you have orders and all of its attributes, right? And this is beautiful, right? The only thing that she needs to do here that is not here is to create a relationship, right? Although from what I see here, there is no relationship except for employees and citizens. There's no relationship in the data, which is, if I'm going to mark out now in terms of what an ER diagram or what a database is supposed to be, there is no relationship between employee and citizens and cost and order and product, right? And remember, we said that what your database has to be of related data, right? Related data, such that I can find a common ground between employees and citizens, right? Of course, if we look deeper, we'll be able to maybe make a link, but it shouldn't be that's tedious, right? So that's the only thing that I'll probably mark down from these attempts. But I hope you agree with me that this is beautiful, right? So this is how I was expecting the assignment. But like I said, every other person's attempt was beautiful. What you can do is redo the assignments for yourself, right? Redo it and maybe make something like this out of it, right? So that you can grasp the whole understanding of what we have discussed. What is beautiful. Everybody made a very good attempt. Kudos to everybody. Now, the next question that I want to answer is Madam Anita asked and said, what is a schema, right? John asked me the same question yesterday when we had a small class, right? So I want to go into that, right? And let's talk about that a little bit. What is a schema? Right? Now, in databases, right? Of course, we know that a database is a collection of data objects, right? It's a collection of data objects. Now, some people will say it's a collection of tables, right? But it's not just tables alone, right? It's a collection of several database objects. Of course, majorly, the major ones are the tables, right? Which gives the data. Every other component is to make sure that we work well on the table. Please let me know if you are following me. Please let me know if you are following me. Please let me know. Are you following me? Please let me know. Please let me know if you are following me.
Following you, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. Who else is following me? Please let me know if you're following me. Right? I don't want to lose anybody. Please let me know. Please let me know if the person told me is following. Who else? Who else is following me?
I'm following you, sir. Yes.
All right, Patricia, you came late. You and I will catch each other on. I'll catch you on Tuesday. You must come to class on Tuesday. And I will catch you there. All right. All right. So I want to believe everybody's following me, right? So a schema, right, is a collection of database objects, right? So let's put that down. A schema is a collection, and I'll show you, don't worry, of database objects, right? And these objects could be a table, of course, tables, views, constraints. I hope you can see my handwriting, constraints, indexes, and so on and so forth, right? Right, right, and that those are what that's what a schema object is, right? Or that's what a schema is, right? So a schema is a collection of database objects. Now, even though MySQL kind of have a different idea, right? And the reason why I'll say it's not a different idea is the way they just the way they accept and use it, right? Now, let me show you something. So when you have a data server, are you following? Right? Let's assume that this is our data server. Of course, a data server is a computer, right? Stored somewhere that can be accessed through networks, right? Either intranet or internet, right? Right. So we have the data server, and I've told you that when you have a data server, two things are inside the data server, right? Or two things make up a data server: the instance and the data files. These two things make up the instance. These two things make up makes up the data server, right? So we have this as the data server, right? Now, so which means that inside here, there's one database of multiple databases. I'm just going to call that DB, right? That contains our data, right? Now, those data are stored on the hard drive, right? So it's as simple as that. Those data are usually stored on the hard drive, right? Right. Now, when you have this situation, right? I remember telling you that even though the system that we are running presently, right, or that we have on each system is what we call a local host environment. That's what you have presently. And I said, what you have in a local host environment is that you have both your clients and server on the same PC, right? That's on the same computer. So that's what I have. I have both my client and server on the same computer. You have both your client and server on the same computer. Now, in the ideal or world real life environment, right? Real life environment, that is what you have at your workplace, right? For those of us who work with organizations where we keep data, right? You will discover that your own system, right, does not have what we call data files. This is, let's say, Anita, right? Your system does not have data files, right? This is your system. You have to, through a browser or through an application, connect to the database on a data server, right? You have to connect, you have to make that connection, right? Through an IP, and I've explained the whole connection process. The connection needing what? The host name, the connection needing the host name, your password, your username and password, ports, and protocol, TCP IP, right? These 4 informations are needed: the port, the TCP IP, the password, and the host name, right? And you have an IP address, and this server has an IP address. Both of you are connecting through that address, right? And this is what it is. You are not the only one trying to connect to the database, right? So I would think that if you have an organization of say 100 people, this is the data server. Everybody is trying to connect to the database, right? Everybody from all over the world. That's how we approach Google. That's how we approach Facebook, Instagram, everything, right? That's how we approach it, right? Now, so what actually happens, right? How does schema now work in this environment, right? Your database, right, can be multiple, can host, a single server can host multiple databases. I need you to understand that. I'll say that again. A single server can host multiple databases, right? And how do I mean, right? How do I mean? Let me see if I can bring this guy on so that usually draws down my system. But let me see if I can bring it on so that I can have more space to explain, right? The foundation of these things is very easy and it's very necessary for us to understand. Once you understand the foundation, right, we can breeze through the rest of the program, right? We can breeze through, but of course, we're not going to breeze through, don't worry, right? But I just need you to understand this. That's why I'm taking all the time to explain it. This is my whiteboard application. I hope that it comes up on time. But while it comes up, answer me. Please let me just wait for it for a few seconds for it to come up. This place, please. All right, it's loading already. Loading already. Apologies, please. Come on now, it's taking too long. It's the reason why I don't like using it. It usually just drains my system. Takes forever to. What are you talking about? Settings and privacy. No. It's privacy on what? All right, so we are here. Thank you. Come up. Beautiful, beautiful. We're here. All right, so that's my signature. Sorry. Sign some documents. Awesome. All right, awesome. Beautiful. Right. So I was talking about, so what do we have in a real life scenario, right? So this is you, this is the data server in a real life scenario. Please let me know if I'm boring you, please. So you have your data files or your database, right? Now, let's do this, right? so that my explanation can be fruitful, I'm going to do a few things so that you understand what I'm trying to do, right? Now, this is the data server. So let's call this server a Google server, right? Let's call this server a Google server. Are you following? Now, on this Google server, of course, this is one of the servers, right? This is one of the servers, right? You know, you can create your company website on Google server, right? You can host your company on Google server. You can. Google basically houses millions of databases. So what you have in Google is that this is a database. This is a database. This is a database. This is a database. This is a database, and so on and so forth, right? All of these boxes are databases, right? Databases. All of them way down, right? Way down, way down, right? Way down. All of these are databases, right? And in this situation, right, all of these in one single server. What does that mean? It means that, take for example, if your company is XYZ, right, your database is XYZ, right? If your company is ABC, your company is ABC. If your company is MNO, right, that is it. So everybody, right, PQR, right, that is database from everywhere. So you have people from XYZ. So I'm just going to extend XYZ like this. You have, let's say, XYZ as 50 people, right? They have 50 people who need information from the database. Are you following me? Now, in that database, right? In that database, it now depends on the connection type, right? And I don't want to bore you with all of those signs, right? Now, usually, this database has several objects, right? And because it's a single database in this place, we call it, even though it's a database, right? It's a database, it's also called a schema. Remember, schema contains database objects. Now, what does that mean? It means that inside that database, that database can now be broken down to what? To multiple sub databases, right? Which we know as what? Schemas, right? Now, think of this as, and why is it having multiple sub database, right? Let's extend this a little bit to this side. Right, let me extend this a little bit, right? Right. Now, why does it have multiple schemas, right? So let's assume that that's XYZ company, right? XYZ company. Now, XYZ company, so this is the database, right? And on the database, like I said, let's even say that they have 5 users of the database. 5 users of that database. Now, those 5 users would have their own spaces allocated to them on the database, which means that this is the old database that you have here, but it is subdivided into 5 what? Into 5 schemas, right? Now let's call this schema Lola schema. Let's say Lola is one of the data scientists in XYZ company, and she's working on, let's say she's working on project. Let's call that project COVID, right? As a lawyer on COVID, right? We have Anita, right? And she is working on finance of this project, COVID, right? Then we have IBK, right? He is more of a photographer, right? And he keeps photo data of the project, right? Right. And this is his own schema. Then we have Vivian, yeah, who is monitoring what the sales of who is monitoring the sales data and sales of vaccines, right? Then we have Patricia, who is the admin, right, and just monitors administrative files, admin files, right? So each person has their own object. Each user has their own object on the database, right? Each user has their own object on the database. You see, what we call that is that each user has a schema, because the name of the schema the schema will carry the username, right? So which, if the name of the user is Vivian a schema name is also called what? Vivian. Please let me know if you understand what I'm saying, right? Basically, what I'm saying is that you have a database, right? Everything is on a data server. A data server can host as many databases as possible. It depends on the resources and the capacity that it can hold. Now, a single database that belongs to a company is known as a schema. Now, that schema can also now be broken down into sub-schemas. That is, I use the word sub-schema because it can hold, because it holds is used by several users. Each user has their space, right? And those spaces are also called schema. Combination of schemas form a database. Are you following? Combination of schemas form a database, but a database in a pool of several databases is also known as a schema, right? A database in a pool of other databases is also known as a schema. How do we create a database? We do not say, how do we create a schema? We do not say create, there's no create schema SQL statement, right? What we do, I'm going to cancel that. What we do is say create database, and we give the name of the database X, Y, Z, right? Create database. So if we hire somebody, who do we hire now? Let's hire John. Let's say that John is a new hire. John just joined the organization. What happens? John is either, of course, we have to give John a username. We have to give him a password, and we have to give him, allocate to him a space, right? We say space quota. We have to give him a space. Allocate to him, say 500 MB on the database. Inside of that, if he creates a table, that's where it will be stored. If he creates a view, that's where it will be stored. If he creates a synonym, right? All the objects that he creates will be in this 500 MB. Please let me know if you understood everything I've said, even though my board has become messy. But please let me know if you understood what I said. I need response from everybody. If you understood what I said, please let me know. Hello?
I do.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Awesome. All right. Who else?
It's
John,
clear,
do you
sir.
understand? Okay. Yes, I can hear you. Awesome. John, is it clear? IBK, is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Awesome. All right. Beautiful. Now let's go into. Now another question that I know that people have is that when you open your workbench, right? When you open your workbench, this is what you see, right? This is what you see, and the question is, how do you connect to the database? And if you went through the video, I also showed you that. First of all, there are three components to this workbench. So we have this as the database side of the workbench. That's, can you see the MySQL and the database icon, right? Then we have the model part where we model our database. This is where you create data models, ER diagrams, and all that. Then we have the service part. We have the service part and the configuration part, right? That's loading. So hold on. Right? We have the services part. Can you see migration, all of that? You want to migrate your database, you want to fetch data, you want to do a whole lot of stuff, right? Now, truth be told, our training does not cover all of this because this is the job of a database administrator, not just anybody, right? So, and there's more to all of this than SQL, right? There's more to all of this than SQL. But our job is SQL. But the ones that I can touch, I'm going to explain a few of them, right? I'm going to explain a few of them, but there's more to all of this. So this is just migration where you can set up a few stuff and all that, right? So, but we're not concerned about that, right? We're going to stick with the default settings. We're not migrating any database, right? So we're facing SQL squarely. Now, when you have this window, right? This is your connection window. When you have this window, there are several ways to connect, right? Remember that we said that what the connection, for you to connect to the database, you need to know the host, you need to know the host and the port, and the TCP/IP and all that. And the beautiful thing about it is you do not have to remember these things, because when we were installing, right, all of those things were configured. When we were installing the application, all of those things were configured. Of course, you can create a new connection, like you have. If you see your own, you discover that this is what you have. But I didn't say you should enter, right? This is what you have. Everybody should have a local host, a local instance MySQL 80, right? You should have this. But yeah, I have created a new connection here, right? Right? And you should have this, right? And this is all the information. This contains all the information that you have. This contains all the information that you need. Look at it, right? It says manage server. I have the first one. So if I go to the first one, right? Let me show you what I clicked again so that you understand what I'm saying, right? I like you to follow me. Just follow me. What I clicked here is so you can add a new connection. If I click on the plus sign, it allows me to add a new connection. I can give the connection a name. The name here is, can you see, you have local instance MySQL 80. That is the name for this one. This one is new connection. So if I say XYZ, that will be the connection name for this one, right? And I'm saying that what protocol am I using? Basically, we use TCP/IP. Of course, there are several other protocols that you can use. This is TCP/IP over SSH, right? You don't need to bother about the networking part. This is networking, right? So, but we're using TCP/IP. That's we're using a transfer protocol, right? And internet protocol, right? So we're using IP basically. That's what it means, right? The host name. Remember, I've told you that because we are using a local host. A local host address is 127.0.0.1, right? That's a local host, and it's a local host meaning that you have the database and the client. The database is hosted on this system. It does not need any external connection, right? If it needs an external connection, that is, if people are going to need to connect to it, then we have to change this to a proper IP address, right? Say like 192.168.0.1 or 192, whatever. What kind, it depends on the networking. There's a networking part to that. Then this is the port. Can you see? So I've talked about the host name, the port. Now, this is the username. You are signing as a user. If it is a database that is a root. Now, the root is called the owner of the database. Hey, you people are making me discuss things that are deep now, right? The root, right, is the host of database. You will see it in every database. Root. It is the default address. Sorry, it's the default user that owns the database. Remember when you were installing, I asked you to, we got to this particular point and we said, put a password that you will remember, right? What we were configuring then is that we're configuring the default user of the database. You see this root account. This root account is the person who owns the database. It has the whole power and autonomy of the database. And that is what you are. And that's why I'm training you as a root user, not just any kind of user. You understand the whole database as a root user, right? So the root owns the database. It can access anybody's object on the database. Think of the root as God, right? Think of the root as God. So imagine that there is somebody. Now, let me blow your mind a little bit, right? Let me blow your mind a little bit. Imagine, take for example, Google. As big as Google is, right? They are sitting on millions of database, right? So imagine that there is somebody who owns the whole Google database, who is the chief DBA, right? We call that person the SysDBA, the SysDBA, SYS DBA, right? Somebody, or let's say MTN or Airtel or Glo or GTB Bank or Zenith Bank or Citibank or JP Morgan Chase, right? Whatever, central bank, there's somebody who owns the database. You can imagine how much they are paying that person. Too much money, you know what I'm saying, right? Because if the person decides and say that this database is not going to come on today, right? And he's hungry, maybe they owe him salary or something, right? It means that the company would not be able to transact. I'm sure that you have actually experienced it before. Let me explain a few things to you, right? You've actually experienced it before. You go to a bank, right? Maybe you went to a bank as early as 8 in the morning. I hope I'm not boring you with my story, right? You went to the bank as early as 8 a.m. in the morning or about 9 a.m., right? Or thereabout. And you see these guys on the front office, right? All beautiful, looking nice and all that. And you discover that behind you, there's a queuing up. There's a lot of people queuing up already. And they are not answering anybody. And they keep telling you that the link is down, the link is down, the link is down, the link is down, right? usually two things happens, right? Is it that, yes, truthfully, their link is down. But when they say their link is down, it means that is it that their network is not available, that is, their connection is not available, or the database is not up yet. Are you following me? There's a time that I think in 2008 or 2009, I finished my Oracle database then, and I went to GCP and these guys were just pretending to be working and all that. And I've been there. I wanted to quickly withdraw some money to do some transactions and all that. And I was there for minutes. I was there waiting 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and all that. Luckily, the branch manager and I, right, we're not friends or hi. And there's this other guy that is like my banker there. So as they were there and just telling people the link is down, the link is down, the link is down, I was just standing and I was like, which link said? So I just peeped and looked at one of these ladies' computers, and I saw that she's actually not doing anything. It was just pressing keyboard. Then I went to the guy that I know there and I said, guy, what's happening now? Your database is down. I can see that the database is down. He was like, yeah, I don't see anything. Right? While we were saying that, the manager came and said, or maybe the front manager or the operations manager came and said, what's up now? What are you guys talking about? To work that money, right? Has not gotten to work that money, and that person was holding the whole company to ransom, right? And that is the power of that you carry when you work on a database, right? So the root is that person, right? It could be you in your organization, it could be anybody, right? I'm sure that if you have a database in your organization, there's the particular person that you go to change your password, to create a table, to do this and all that, right? That person is the person sitting on your database. Then, of course, if you have a schema that you want to connect to, right? You connect, you give the name of the schema here, and you make a connection. So here, if I say okay, can you see? Please let me know if you can see. Can you see XYZ has been created? If I try to use it to connect, it might not connect, right? It's asking me for password. My password is let's see, is it going to allow me in? Loading. Yep, right. Can you see? I just created a new connection. I just created a new connection. I just created a new connection, right? And because I'm the SIS database, I'm able to enter into every schema. I'm going to go back to that very soon. So I'm going to close this again, right? So I can use any of these guys to access my database, right? And in fact, on a normal database, you actually have multiple accesses or multiple instances. We call all of these guys instance, right? You usually have multiple instances to connecting with the database because you have plenty of people. So imagine that just 5,000 people are trying to access the database. With this connection alone, what happens? You have to wait for each other, right? Because it's listening one after the other. It's like you have a gateman to the gateman to say ShopRite, right? And it's trying to check everybody one after the other. You know that there's going to be a queue outside because he has to check each person at a time. If he does not want to do that, he has to open the gate, make the gate open so that everybody can come in. But he usually would not do that. Do you understand? He has to allow. So in that situation, when you have a database and multiple people, a whole lot of users connect to the database, right? You have to create multiple connections and assign multiple connections to each of those users such that they don't have to wait too long to connect to the database. Now, so by default, everybody must have this on your system. That's local instance MySQL. So once you click on it, you enter into your database. This is what we call, let me just close all of this. SQL code, I have that. SQL, I have that. Mr. Lakon, SQL, I have that. All right, so this is what you have. This is what you have. This is what you have. So, right, this is what you have. And I've explained this whole object or this whole window to us already, right? So for those that are just joining us, this is your menu. From here, you can do a lot of, you can create a connection from database, you can manage connection, you can reverse engineer your database schema and do a whole lot of stuff. So you can configure your server from here. Plenty things. You can check your queries if you're running queries. This is where you run and execute your queries, and so on. This is where you adjust the panels and the views of your window and all of that. Right now, So I want to work, right? I want to create, now if you look at it, my window is blank, right? My window is blank. I have a gray window, it's just blank, there's nothing there, right? And if you look at this part, you see administration. If you look at administration, you see that all that you have there is client state, server status. You want to see if the server is okay or not. Client connections, how many people are connecting to the database at the moment, users and privileges, status and system variables, how to export data, how to import or restore your database if there's a database crash. You can start up or shut down an instance and you can see server log, right? All of these are the administrative part. Of course, if you want to learn the administrative part, you see me personally, I can take you through that at a very reduced price. sound like I don't know what's happening. All right, now we have a schema, right? So the next thing you have is schema. So this is a schema, right? Now, remember I said that what your database, right, can house multiple databases, right? A database housing multiple databases. And I said those multiple databases are actually schemas, right? Actually what schemas, smaller schemas, although they are databases. So, and they said that what a schema houses database objects, right? So let us take, for example, all of these are schemas. Now there's a particular schema here that you do not tamper with. You see it. Can you see sys schema? Please let me know if you can see. Please let me know if you can see it. All right, it seems very tiny, but please let me know if you can see it. Sys schema. You can also check it on your system. You'll see that by default you have that schema. Sys or database, right? Let's call it schema because it's schemas, right? But sys database because it has its database name. Can you see? Please let me know if you have it. Please let me know if you have it. Let me know if you have it. Let me know if you have it. Am I the only one in class? People are not responding to me. Can you even hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So do you have that on your system? Oh, IBK, you've installed now, haven't you?
I've not.
Sir,
Might
please
see
can you
yourself.
repeat what you
I
said?
installed it, but I told it was not compatible with my system. It was not working.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about that later. Madam Anita, Trisha, you said what?
I said, can you repeat what you said last? Sorry.
I said that you should have this sys database. Can you see it? Can you see it? I'm selecting it now. Can you see SYS?
Yes.
Do you have
Yes,
it,
I
right?
have it. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I know that Anu and Lola, they might not be with their system. Madam Anita, do you have it? John, do you have it? You're not even participating. What's up?
Yes, I have it.
Awesome. All right. So that database contains information about your database. We call those information the data dictionary. Right? Inside your sys is where you have your data dictionary. Inside your sys database, right? You have what we call the data dictionary. Inside the sys database, let me just put it here so that you can write it down. Inside your sys database, right? We have what we call the data dictionary. Right? We have what we call the data dictionary. Now, what is the data dictionary? The data dictionary is a database, is the database of the database. Right? And what does that mean? It says it houses all the information about every component on the database. The only person that can work on the sys database is the sys DBA. Remember, I called the sys DBA to you is the root user, right? The root user. So that's the only person who can work on it. If you are not a sys user, right, you are able to see that database because you are working as root, right? Remember, I said that you are logged in as root, right? You are logged in as the admin, as a sys DBA. That is why you can see that database. If you log in as a user, if I create a user on the database and the user logs in, that user would not be able to see that sys. I'm going to cancel that. Will not be able to see that sys database, right? So the only person that can actually work on that database is the sys, and that database is very, very vital. If you do anything on that database, it can crash your old database. It can crash your database. It can crash your database. So I usually tell people that you do not tamper with your SIS database. It is only to be queried when you have issues, right? You only to be queried when you have issues with your database, right? So let us make sure that we do not we avoid it. But in a for class purpose, I just want to show you what you have in that database. So I'm just going to come to file. I'm going to come to file, right? I'm going to come to file. I want to open a new worksheet for myself, or a new work environment, a new worksheet, basically, a new work platform, right? So I'm going to come to a query tab. I'm saying new query tab. You can use Control T, right? And I'm going to just open that, right? And it shows me this white numbered and beautiful environment where I can type my queries, right? I can type my SQL queries here. So you can as well do that. Now, if I come to that database, right? And I say, look at it, just look at it here. And I say use sys. I say use sys. And I run it. And please just pay attention to what I'm saying. If I say use sys and I run this, right? This is how you execute a statement or a query or a code, right? And I execute it, right? I want you to watch what is going to happen to this sys schema here, or sys database. If I run that, who can tell me what happened to it? You will see that by itself, right? It expanded by itself. Now look at it again. If I say use HR, right? If I say use HR, watch it. If I say use HR, I have a database called HR. If I say use HR and I run that, right? I select it and I run that. What happens? The HR database is expanded, right? And you see it, you see, of course, in the output section, it tells you that what the statement ran properly. Right, the statement ran properly. So when you want to engage a database, or let's say when you want to engage a schema, right? When you want to engage a schema, you want to create objects, you want to query objects in a schema, right? We use the use schema command, right? Use is not a database, it's not an SQL query, right? It's just a query that we use to work with the workbench. So it is not an SQL query. I'm going to say that again. Use is not an SQL query, right? It's just a query that has to do with the workbench, right? Use space, this is space, use space, sorry, use space, schema underscore name, right? That is schema name. When you run this, right? When you run this, is to use to activate or access a schema, or access schema, let's cancel this, access schema objects. Used to activate or access what? Access schema objects. And use, take notes, NB. Use is not an SQL statement. Use is not an SQL statement. It's just used to work on the workbench. It's used to work on the workbench. Right? It's that easy, right? So it's used to work on the workbench. All right. So we can continue in class, right? So now, so let me just delete this HR. All right, let's compress that back. Now, if you look at it, the SIS has how many tables? It has just one single table, just one single table, just one single table. And if I show you what you have in the table, right? I'm just writing an SQL statement for the table. This is what you have in the table, right? Don't worry about it. You might not understand what I'm saying presently, but eventually, just take a mental picture of it. You understand it as we proceed, right? So this is the result from that query, right? This is the result from that query. I'm just going to do that. All right. So this is the result from that query. So it's telling us that these are the informations in that table, right? So it has only one table, and that's one of, so table He has one object. Now, the next object that he has is views. If you click on views, you discover that he has a whole lot of views, right? A whole lot of views, a whole lot of views. And these views are informations that contain information about dynamic information about the database. Dynamic meaning that those informations change per time. They change per time. If you check them now and check them in under 5 minutes, another 1 minute, the information might have changed. That's why we say dynamic, right? They change based on the activity on the system or on the database, right? They change. They actually store information about the instance and they change per time, right? Then he also has stored procedures, several stored procedures. Might not be able to talk about stored procedures because it's advanced SQL, right? But stored procedures are used to perform specific actions on the database. Then he also has functions, right? We'll probably talk about a bit about functions, right? So he has functions. So this database is not to be tampered with. So we're going to close that. We're going to close that. We're going to close that, right? So we're going to go back to use HR, right? And HR is the default database that we're going to use in this training, right? The default database that we're going to use in this training. So I'm going to run this again and say use HR. So we're back inside HR, right? We're back inside HR. So everything I do presently is going to be going into the HR database. Now, let's go back to our slide, right? So today, what we want to do in another 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes would be to understand data definition language, right? So started last class and just going to do a quick revision. So data definition language. Now it says, well, the first thing we'll talk about is objects, database object. It says there are several objects that can be created on the database. And these objects can play an important role in the database, right? Now, remember I've told you that when you have all of these objects, you can see from the database that we have tables, we have views, although in the database that I just showed you, there are no indexes or synonym listed, but trust me, they are part of database objects, right? They're part of database objects, they're not just listed. So let's look at a bit of them, right? So we have table. Basically, what it does is it is the basic unit of storage for data, right? Basically, what it does is that it stores data and it stores data in rows and columns, right? So we know that it stores data in rows and what? Rows and columns. Rows and what? Columns. Right? That's basically what a table is. And a table is also known as a relation, if you remember, right? It's also known as a relation. So we have tables. Then another object that we have are views, right? Views. I would say view is a subset of data from one or more table, right? That is, the view is created based on what? Based on the existence of tables, one or more tables. So when you are creating a view, you can create a view on a table, on multiple tables. We'll talk about that as we proceed. Then we have indexes. Indexes are used to improve performance of query, right? Don't worry, you understand indexes as we proceed as well. Of course, sequence are used to generate numeric values, right? You want to automatically generate values without writing 1, 2, 3 to 1 million. We use sequences to generate values. Then we have synonyms. Synonyms gives an alternative name to object. That is when you call synonyms like an alias, right? They give alternative names. So if an object has a very long name, you can create a synonym for it such that the object can be accessed more easily, right? So let's proceed. Then we talk about the naming conventions or the naming rules for database object. I will say that all database objects must conform to this standard. I will say the first thing is that database objects have to start with a letter. The names of a database object has to start with a letter. It can be 1 to 30 characters long, that is in length. So you can have a name like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, W, X, Y, and Z. That's 26. Then we have we said 30. So you can add A, B, C, D, E, right? Okay, no, sorry, it's supposed to stop at D. So we're going to just cancel these out, right? So it's supposed to just stop at that part, right? So E, nourish, right? So it can be this long. A database name can be this long, right? So imagine that you have a database that is this long and you want to access it. You can create a synonym on this database name. and just basically call it ABC. The name is actually ABCD to Z, I mean to E again, right? But we are giving it a synonym, a shorter name called ABC, right? Then it says it can contain only A to Z in capital, A to Z in small letter, 0 to 9, underscore, dollars, and hash. So we can have a name like ABC hash 3, right? That's the name of the database object. This is a good name for a database object. Now, this is it, right? It says not duplicated with, not duplicate the name of objects of another object owned by the same user. So take, for example, what does that mean, right? If you have a table, called employees, right? Let's call it M, right? And you cannot have a view called M, right? You have a table in your schema, right? Let's say that this is Lola's schema, right? This is Lola's database. This is Lola's space. Lola created a table called employees, M, right? She cannot, when she wants to create a view, she cannot call that view again, M, right? But Vivian can go ahead and call her view M, right? Because why? It is in a different schema. Lola and Vivian are operating from different schemas. So she can use the name M. But Lola, once you name an object M, you cannot name another object the same name, right? It's like you calling your firstborn Lola and your secondborn Lola, right? It does not make sense, right? It does not make sense, right? Then you should not use a database management system reserved words, right? You can Google the reserved words for database management system, but I can give you a few, right? You cannot call or name an object select. You cannot name an object create. You cannot name an object database. You cannot name an object table. You cannot name an object rows. You cannot name an object column. You cannot name an object schema, right? All of these are reserved words because what they are used to define structure and object in the database, right? So you cannot name any, you cannot use any of these kinds of name, right? There are a whole lot of them, right? By in naming an object on a database. If you are going to use select, right, you're probably going to say select underscore 10, right? And that is acceptable. Select underscore 10, select hash 10, select $10. That kind of name is probably acceptable, right? Then we use descriptive name. Now, this is very important, right? When you're naming an object on the database, you use descriptive name for that database object. That is, if I'm naming an object and the object is going to be a table that contains student data, right? Students data. So I can easily say that that object is what? Students underscore details. Now, student underscore details tells me that this table contains details about what? Students, right? That's a descriptive name, right? That's a descriptive name. That's a descriptive name. So the database object must be descriptive. That is so that because you are not the only one using the database, somebody else can ask for your permission to use your object, right? So that they can understand what the data, from just looking at the name of the table, they have an idea of what the table is, what the kind of data that the table contains, right? That is basically that. And it says database object names are not case sensitive, right? And of course, we're talking about data types. I've said that there are several data types on a database. I'm not going to explain all of this, right? You can watch the video so that I can move on. So you have integer, you have decimal, you have float, you have double, you have character, you have factor 2, you have date, you have time, you have date time, you have timestamp, and you have year, right? Now, so the main thing that I want to show. Remember we're talking about DDL, right? DDL is data definition language, right? Data definition language, DDL, right? And if you remember, going back to the slide that we have here, right? I told you about all the data definition language, all of them, right? These are them, right? So we're just going to list them out here. So we have create, we have drop, we have alter. Don't worry, you will know all of them. You don't need to cram them. We have comments. We have comments. We have rename. And we have truncate. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6. Right? These are all the database, DDL statements. These are all the DDL statements. So we're going to start with create. Create is basically one of the most important in this list. And what does create do? Create statement is used to create objects on the database. We use the create statement is used to create objects on the database, right? Basically, that's what you do. So anytime you want to create an object, right? Remember that we talked about database objects. We say database objects are tables, views, indexes, synonyms, and sequence, right? Of course, there are more database objects, right? But basically, anything that is a database object, when you want to create them, we use the create statement to do that, right? So it says, how do we use the create statement? You must have the create privilege, create table privilege. And I've told you, so take for example, we're talking about create table statements now, right? So we want to start creating tables. That's what it means. We want to start creating tables, right? So when you want to create anything, when you want to work on the database, I've said it before, when you want to work on the database, you have to have privileges, right? And I use the example of you being in your house, or your parent house, and not just anybody can come into your house. So I'm going to use my parents' house, for example. So let's assume that I'm in my father's house, right? If I'm in my dad's house, right, because I'm a root user, I'm a super user in my father's house. What makes me a super user? Because I'm a son, right? I'm my father's son, right? What it means is that I can use anything in the house. I can go into the living room and use the stereo, or use a TV, or use anything. I can even go into my father's room and sleep on his bed. I can use my father's food space in his kitchen, in his bedroom. I can go to my mother's room and use a powder or perfume. I can go to my brother's room and use anything, because, okay, don't let me use myself. Let's assume that my father owns the house. So my father can actually do anything in the house, right? He can do anything in the house because he has the privilege to do everything. And because he's the super user, he has the privilege to use everything that he wants to use in the house. He can go to the kitchen to cook, he can go into the store. The same thing with my mother, right? They can do everything. Right? Now, if it's a family that is very stringent about space, right? Some family will say that my younger brother cannot enter into my room or use my stuff, right? There are people like that, right? But let's assume that because it's a nuclear family, everybody in that family are super users. So you can use anybody's content, you can use anybody's space, right? The rooms are schemas, right? Now look at it. The rooms, the house is the database. The house is the database. Your house, your father's house, your own house. If you have built a house, your house is the database. But in your house, you have several rooms. You have your own room, you have your father's room, you have a visitor's room, you have your younger one's room, you have your siblings' room, you have the kitchen, you have the living room, you have the store, and so on and so forth, right? All of those rooms are called schema, right? And what does it mean? It means that in your room, every object in your room, your bed, your mattress, your wardrobe, your mirror, your clothes, your shoes, your bags, your laptop, your reading table, your studio, whatever it is, your perfume, your toothpaste, your underwear, everything in that room belongs to you. What does it mean? It means that if it's a house that is concerned about space, right, and your younger one, right, comes in. So take for example, I know I don't have a sister though, but I've heard about people who have sisters, and they complain that my younger brother just comes into my room to just use my perfume. Or I think it's the other way around, right? Because females like to use male things, right? So you hear the brothers keep saying that my younger sister just keep coming into my house, into my room, and picking my t-shirt and using my perfume, right? Even my wristwatch, my Apple wristwatch, my Oramio wristwatch, whatever it is. She even wears my sneakers because we wear the same size, right? In that environment, what it means is that they are able to share each other's schema, right? And which we do also on the database. You can share each other's schema. I have a car, you can use the car if I give you the permission to use the car, right? That is the way it is in some houses. And in some other houses, they're very, very particular about their space, right? So you hear that you can't even enter into your father's room without being invited. Now, when you invite you into the room, what has it given you? It gives you a privilege to enter into your room. Now, let's work that. Let's reverse engineer that analogy that we've used. And we say that you have somebody like your mechanic, your automobile guy, or your laundry guy, or your gateman, take for example. Even though your gateman stays in the house with you, he does not have the privilege to enter into any room until when he's given the privilege, right? He does not have the privilege to, even if he comes into the sitting room sometimes, he cannot sit the way you are going to sit. You are going to probably sit in your house and put your head on the couch and lay there and just be rolling even without you having your bath and all of that. But he can't do that. He can just come into the sitting room and just be fiddling with the remote control or says he wants to have a party or all of that. Because why? He does not have the privilege to do that. And that is the same scenario that we have on the database. On the database, you must have the privilege to do anything, even as simple as you logging into your account. You must be given the privilege to do that. We call it create section. You must be given the privilege. So which means that if on that database that you have on your system now, right, you create a user called, let's use IBK, right? The IBK creates a user called on the system in Lua, right? And that's a user, or take for example, don't let me take it far, right? So let's assume that you all are connected to my database. You all are connected to my database. And of course, John was not in this class last week, right? He just joined us, right? And John, as a new user, I create the super user that is the database, the root, the sys database, will create a username and password for John to come in to create a user for John, right? It creates a user for John with a username and password. And like I said, it gives him space on the database. Now, he has created John's username and password. John wants to log into the database. If John does not have what we call the create session privileges, right? Create section privileges. Create session privileges or create session privilege, right? He would not be able to log in, or I mean, he will not be able to log in into the database. So even though he has a username and password, he cannot log in. He has to have this privilege. It is it's the first privilege that every user on the database has or must be granted, right? I will get to that much later. So everything you want to do on the database, right? You must have privilege for it. You must have privilege for it. If you do not have privilege for it, you would not be able to do that on the database or work on that on the database. So if you want to create a table on the database, you must have the create table privilege. And remember that I said that as the root user, user, you have all system. There are two types of privileges. We call them system privileges, right? And object privileges. I'll say that again. As a root user, right? As the owner of the database, you have all system privileges and object privileges. As the root user, I'll say that again. You have all system privileges and object privileges. It's like God, right? God does not need you to use your car. If God wants to use your car, he will use your car. But of course, even God still asks us for permissions, right? He had to ask Mary or permission to use her womb to beget the Savior. So it's the same thing, right? But as a root user on the database, right, you can inform the user that I want to see your table, but you do not need the person's permission because you have system privileges, and all system privileges are not the privileges on the database. But take for example, what does it mean? What does that mean? Vivian, you owe me 5,000 for coming late. You owe me 5,000 for coming late, right? So that's your late comer fee, right? So let's assume that we have user Anita, right? Who has she has a table called employees table, and let's just say employees table, and we have user Lola. that has department table, right? Anita has a business case, right? Business case. So our business case is update roles on department table, right? Remember that this is our own table, employee. This is Lola's table, department, right? But she has this business case to attend to, update roles on the department table. Lola, on the other hand, has a business case that says generate a full report on M table, right? A full report on M table. Now, what does that mean? I deliberately created this scenario so that you understand how this database works, even though that's not the environment that we have. Now, if you look at it, both of them need each other to use each other's objects. This person, Anita, would need to access Lola's department, and Lola would need to access Anita's what? Employee table. It's like this person wants to use this person's perfume, this person wants to use this person's shoe, right? What happens? Both of them need to get privileges. So Anita needs to send a query to Lola to say, grant me privilege to use to access your table. And Lola would have to do the same thing and say, grant me access on your department's table, right? Such that when Lola wants to access Anita's table, she's going to say Anita.m. Let me write that well so that you understand, right? So she wants to update Lola's table, that's his department. So she'll probably write a statement like update, right? Now, she needs to call when you want to use somebody else's schema, you call the owner of the schema dot the name of the object. Right? The owner of the schema. This is how you refer to somebody's object. An object that does not belong to you, this is how you refer to it. Please let me know if you can hear me. An object that does not belong to you, this is the syntax to refer to it. The owner.object name. Owner.object name. So in this case, Lola wants to generate a report, right? Let's do that first. Lola wants to generate, let me use this. Lola wants to generate a report, a full report on employee table. Who owns employee table? Who is the owner of employee table? Anita. So Lola will probably have to write something like select all from Anita. Of course, Anita must have given her the permission to use that. Once she gets the permission, she should now say select all from, hold on, please. Select all from Anita.employee table. Right? This is you acknowledging the person who owns the object and the object's name. And for Anita will probably say update and update Lola dot what dot department table, right? Set salary equals to 7,000, where sorry, not salary. Let's do a proper set debt underscore ID to 70, where debt underscore ID equals 50. Don't bother about all of this, right? you will understand all of this as we proceed, right? But this is what I'm pointing out. If you look at it, both of them have to access each other's objects by respect. Say, Antimi, I want to use your object. This one say, okay, go and use it. This one say, Anita, I want to use your object. And say, okay, I'll give you permission to use it. They cannot run these queries, or these queries will not work if they do not have permissions from each other, right? If both of them does not give each other a permission, what you have is what we call, let's say that this person denies the permission. This person denies the permission, right? What happens? This person's statement, if the person runs a statement against this database, it will not work. If the person runs a statement against this one, it will not work. What you have is what we call a bottleneck. But this bottleneck can be resolved by the 6DBA, right? It can give anybody permission on anybody's object. So maybe they are beefing themselves and it's like, nah, I'm not going to give you this permission. You too, I'm not going to give you this permission. The database administrator say, okay, both of you be momoing there, doing yourself. Oh yeah, you collect permission, and you are able to access each other's database, right? That is the way we operate on the database. Please let me know if you understood all the plenty English that I've just explained. Please let me know. Please let me know. I need that feedback, please, so that I know if.
Yes, I understand.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
It's clear.
Thank you. It's clear. Awesome. Who else is it clear to?
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead. Please ask.
So for example, if Lola gives permission, what I'm seeing here now, so Lola gives permission to Anita to use table depth, and then we are set this set depth ID. Does it mean that Anita is changing the parameters, and then if Lola has to use the same depth, she still has to request for permission to use it?
No. So what it means is that yes, Lola in this case is changing a parameter and she's updating a record in Lola's table, right? She's updating a record, sorry, yeah. Whose table is this? Depth abi? Oh, we used the wrong. Hold on. Let me see. Lola, yeah. So Anita is accessing Lola's depth table, right? So Anita is changing the content on the table, right? But Lola is the owner of the table. What that means is that once Anita is done and she issues a commit, Lola is able to see the new information that has been updated, right? So she does not need permission. It's an object. It's like I'm saying that IBK, please borrow me your car, right? Like I'm saying, IBK, borrow me your car. Let me quickly go to Ibadan, right? And I went to Ibadan, right? And maybe you gave me. What's happening? Okay. Right. So maybe you gave me the car at your tank being half full, right? Your tank is half full, your fuel tank is half full, right? But you gave me the permission to use your car, right? What is the ideal thing that I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to bring your car better, right? I may not be able to take it for servicing, but it is ideal that at least I return your car with half filled fuel if I cannot top it up to a full tank. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, what happened? I have updated your car. Now, when you collect the key from me, do you need the permission to use the fuel? No. It is your object. Do you understand? So whatever you do on anybody's table, right? It belongs to the content that you've changed belongs to that person. Even though maybe it's the 6DBA that gave you the business case to run, but the person owns that content. The person owns that. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. So let's continue. Let's go back to class, right? So now we understand that for you to create a table, you need the create table privilege. And the next thing that you need is a storage area, right? What you need to create a table, please let me mute your mic. Let me mute. Right? What you need to create a table is a create table privilege. And of course, you need a storage area. And I've told you that users on the database have storage areas allocated. And I've said that users in the database once you are a user or once we are creating a user for you, we have to create or the database administrator create a storage area for you, right? That is your space. So it means that what it means is that it's like you come into your house and you bought you're living in your father's house and you bought a table that is a reading table for yourself, right? Where do you put it? You say your mother will say, don't let me see that table in the sitting room, just take it into your room, JJ. And that means that table has to be stored in your own space. If you are moving out of your father's house, maybe you now got your own apartment, what do? You probably move that table with you, or you move the chair with you, whatever object it is, right? So you need a storage area. Now, it says you also need what? A table name. You need to specify the table name. You need to specify the column names, the data type, and size, right? You need to specify the column name, the data type, and size. Now, it says the create table statement is one of the DDL statements that are a subset of the SQL statement to create, modify, and remove data structures, right? Now, if you look at it, when we talk about the DDL statement, what they are doing, what we use the DDL statement to do, is to adjust, is to work on the structure of database objects, right? Right? DDL statements are used to create, modify, and delete database structural objects, right? Structural objects. That is what we use them for, DDL statement for. So you can create a state, you can create an object, you can modify an object, you can delete an object. We talk about all of that as we proceed. And it says what? These statements, that is DDL statements now, are auto commit, which means that they have an immediate effect on the database. What does that mean? It means that anytime you run a DDL statement, let's assume your database is 1 GB in size. Your total database is 1 GB in size, right? And you create, maybe Lola comes in. I don't know why I'm using Lola's name a whole lot today. Thank you, Lola, for a beautiful name, right? And Lola is a new user, or Lola creates another table, right? Lola created another table called, let's call the name the table lawyers. She's a lawyer, so we say lawyers underscore info, right? That's the name of the table, and the size of the table is 25 MB, right? The size of the table is 25 MB. Lola created that, right? Immediately she creates that table, right? What happens? The size of the database increases, because why? The DDL statements are what? Auto commit, right? Which means that this table now becomes what? 1.025 gig in size. Are you following me? Let's assume that after she's done with the table and she has used the table, she deleted the table, right? We'll talk about how to drop a table, right? She drops the table. What happens? The table goes back to what? 1 gig. Because why? 25 MB has been deleted from the table. So they are auto commit, right? DDL statements, you need to know that DDL statements are auto commit. Commit means save, so they auto save, right? Commit means what? Save. Commit means save. Commit is save. Same way you save document on Excel, on Excel or Microsoft Word, right? It's the same way we save information in SQL, except that we do not use the word save. What we use is the word commit, right? I will explain that as we proceed, right? So that is how, let me just clean this board a little bit so that we can see the next thing that I want to talk about. So now that is how save is, so DDL statement are auto commit, right? Now, how do you create a database? How do you create a table? Sorry, how do you create a table? Right? How do you create a table? You use the create table. This is the syntax. Anytime you say syntax, the syntax is how the structure of a statement should look like, right? English has syntax as well. How the structure of an SQL statement should look like, right? So you'll probably see the syntax a lot, but don't worry, I'm going to explain what it means, right? So in this situation, right, we're creating a table. Look at it, an example. Create table. The table must have a name or the schema that we are creating the table on, right? The column, the data type, and expressions. Forget about all of that, right? So let's move to the real deal, right? Say create table, department, right? Create table, depth. Now, in bracket, what are we creating? Remember that I gave you an assignment and I said that you should create an entity and generate its attributes. So let's assume that we create student. Let's go back to student, right? And we say student is an entity, and the attribute of student is that they must have what we call first underscore name. Right? They have hold on, sorry. First name. All right. Sorry about that. Right? First name. Right? They have last underscore name, email address, phone number, and department. Let's just say all of this, right? Now, remember that these are how we generated the data that we generated. So this is your entity. This is our entity, and these are our attributes, right? Now, these attributes must have the kind of data that they want. Right? So which means that we must be able to determine what is the type of data that first name would be. First name basically are alphabetic in nature, right? Nobody's name is 1, 2, 3, right? Your name is either Lola, Oluwaseun, IBK, Fitzgerald, Laura, Sancho, Oluwabukumi, uh, it's just made up of words. Those names are made up of alphabets, right? And we need to look at what data type on the database, or what's the data type in a database. That, right? That's maybe to Z, maybe some alphanumeric character. So in this situation, we're using VACA too. So we're going to say, okay, first name is Vacha, right? It's called Vacha. Where's my? Yeah, come here. Right? First name is Vacha, right? So it's a Vacha data type, right? Anytime you see string, I've said it's use Vacha, right? Vacha, and then what is the length, right? The length will now be what is the length that a name can be. To what length? What length? That doesn't look fine. Let me write this well. What is the longest name that can be accommodated, right? So we say it's a Vacha, right? Vacha. And then what is the length? Of course, you know that there are some people that has very long names, right? So, and there are some people in Korea whose name is just 2 alphabets or 3 alphabets. So you have to make allowance for those. And there are some people like people in Nigeria where their names are very long, or people in Poland, like for example, that has very long names, or people from the Icelandic people who have very long names. So you want to be able to say that, okay, would allow for just hold on, right? Would allow for somebody whose name is 30 in length. So you're saying that the name, the longest name that anybody on the database can have in your database, on this table, sorry, on this table, the name, the length, the longest name will be 30 characters. So what that means is that if the person's name is A, right, it's accommodated. And if the person's name is 30 character length, it's still accommodated. But 31 is not accommodated. We will give you an error. Right? Now, if we're doing that for first name, we're doing the same thing for last name. So last name is also Vacha, and we'll say 30 or 25, whatever number you want to use. Right? Email address is the same thing. Email address is also looks like name, so we say Vacha, right? Same Vacha, and we say let's give it 35. Let's call that because it could be longer, right? So we say 35. Phone number. Are you following me? Phone number, we can say phone number. Let's go back to our data, right? Phone number. So we say phone number would be, yeah, it could be integer, right? Integers and numbers. So for anything that has to do with numbers, phone numbers do not have decimal places, right? So we're not using precisions, right? We're not using precisions, we're not using single precision, double precision, and we're not using decimal point because phone numbers do not have floating data, right? They are data that are integer in nature. So we use init. We use init, or you can use init or varchar. Varchar also allows you to use numbers, right? Varchar also allows you to use numbers, but basically, let's cancel out varchar here. So we say init, right? Init is the data type that we're using for init is the data type that we're using for number, right? Now, initially, before now, we usually give a length for init, right? But nowadays, right, the database method has been updated, so we don't give a length to init data types anymore, right? Like I said earlier, before now, we used to give a character length. Are you following me? We used to give a character length to integer, but now we just say init and we say unsigned. That is, it can be of variable length, right? It can be of variable length. So we usually do not, but basically you don't even need to put the unsigned. You just say init, right? Just say init and you're good. You just say int and you're good. I don't know why I'm saying init. Int and you're good and you're good. Then department, right? Department, if it's department name, right, it will be varchar 2. Varchar and maybe 30, right? Now, what does that mean? It means that we have defined the name of the table, we have defined the name of the columns, and we have defined their what? Their character, their data type and column length. The table has name, student. The table has column names, which are its attributes or variables, right? That's first name, last name, email address, phone number, and department name. And each of them has what? Column data type and column size. Please let me know if you understood what I just explained. If you understood it, let me know.
Sir, I have a question. For
Go
Can
ahead,
you
go
hear me,
ahead.
sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. For some email address comes with numbers.
Yeah.
So can you use the varchar and init or integer at the same time for
No.
that email address?
No. That's why I said that varchar allows for numbers, right? Varchar data type allows for numbers. And that's why I said even for phone number, you can use varchar, right? Varchar, once you use varchar, what it means is that you are saying you want to use alphabets, you want to use numbers, you want to even use, it allows you to use hash, @ underscore, and all of that. It allows you to use all of those things, right? Even dot and all that. So varchar is a very robust data type, right? That allows you to use several components inside of it. Do you understand what?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. So any other questions? Then let me know if you understood what we just did. Let me know if you understood what we just did. What is the time? Whoa, we have 8 minutes to 7. Let me know if you understood what we just did. I'm waiting, please. I'm waiting. We still have a long way to go. We have to finish chapter 3 and chapter 4 this week so that we don't carry over them. Let me know if you understood.
Excuse me, sir, are you done with the data types?
Are we?
Are you done with the data types? I said, are we done with the data types? Because it's only int and varchar that you explained. Data types.
I've explained everything from last class, right?
Data types.
Yes, these are all the data types. These are all of them. There are 11 of them, right? There are more, actually. There are more. And these are all of them, right? Right. So you have integer, you have decimal, you have float, you have double. Decimal to float, right? Decimal to double, sorry, are decimal in nature, right? They are decimal in nature. They are integers that allows you to put 0.823 points, this, right? So that's what you have in decimal, float, and double. Then you have car. Car is actually fixed length. Fixed length in the sense that when you say that it is 2, then it will only allow for 2 characters, right? When you say it's a fixed length character, right? We use it for columns that does not have plenty, that does not require plenty length of characters, right? Then varchar, I just explained varchar as the general data type that allows for a whole lot of kinds of data. Then we have date, right? And date is to store date. And it stores date in the format of CCYY-MM-DD format, right? That's the format of date on database. Then we have time. Time is stored in hours, column, minutes, column, seconds format. Then we have date time, which is the full timestamp, right? If you look at date and timestamp are the same, full timestamp, right? It combines both the date and the time together. And year allows us to just extract the year from the CCYY. CC means century, YY means year, MM means month, and DD means date. So which means that if you have a date like what's today's date? 2021 -09 today is 11th, right? So this is a default format of date. If you're going to put the date on the system, this is how the date is going to look like. Right, this is how the data is going to be. So that is all the data types in a nutshell, right? So if you want to create a table, this is
Sir, good
yes.
evening, sir. Sorry,
Yeah.
I have a question. Does char allow for numbers?
Yes. No, char does not allow for numbers. Char does not allow. Char does not allow. All right. Any other question before I move on? Supposed to be wrapping up the class now, because we've done about, I think we've done about 2 hours class. But let's continue. I'll be stopping very soon so that we can rest, prepare for church tomorrow, then we'll continue tomorrow. Right? So, can I continue, please?
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask a question.
Let's go ahead.
The primary key column, does it have to be integer, or can it be varchar too?
Primary column has to be, it can be varchar actually. It's just something that uniquely identifies each row, right? We've not gotten there, but I'm going to explain that when we get there, right? Yeah, I'm going to explain that when we get there, right? Don't worry. All right, so now we want to create a database, right? We want to create a table, right? And I want to show you how to create a table. So look at it. You have create table depth, depth underscore number. Can you see integer into 2, right? It will still work, right? That's integer. That's the data type. The length is 2. Database name or department name. That's D name. Varchar 20. Location varchar 2, right? And we terminate with semicolon, right? You must, I've said that before. Anytime you write an SQL statement, you must terminate with semicolon. Okay? You must terminate with semicolon. All right, so let me show you how to do this. Let's create a database. All right, so let's create a database, right? Now, first of all, I don't want to use HR. We'll go back to HR later. Let's create a database. Let's create a database called, we create a database, right? We say create database. Not just anybody can create a database. The only person that can create a database is the CSDBA and anybody that he has given the privilege to create a database, right? And because I am a 6DB of this computer, of this system, right, I'm able to create a database. So create database, let's call it cohort. Let's call it beta 2, or let's call it, what should we call it? Somebody give me a name. Give me a name. All right, let's call it friends, right? That's the name of the database. Create database, friends. So I'm going to terminate that with this, sorry. Friends, right? I'm going to create that. I'm going to say, I'm going to end it with semicolon. All right, so, right. So I've created that. I want you to watch what happens in this place, right? So when I create this, I'm going to run this. Right. If you look down here, please follow my cursor. Please follow my cursor. Right. If you look down here, you see that any statement that ran successfully is marked green. Right. You see, it tells me the number of queries that I've run, the time that the statement was executed, the statement that was executed, and it says one row affected. And what does that mean? This create database friend is an auto commit, right? It means that it immediately affects the database. How do I know? If you look at this side now, look at this part. There is nothing like friends here, right? I have ABC, I have Avita, I have classic models, I have HR, I have Sakila, I have CIS, I have TT, I have Word, and I have XYZ. They are all arranged in alphabetical order, right? So friends is not there, but I've created it. So where is it? All I just need to do is use this reload button. Can you see that reload button where my cursor is? If I reload it, what happens? If I reload it, can you see friends now? On top of HR, friends. That is that database that we just created. Friends. So if we do this, you see that it does not have anything. It's just table. There is nothing. There's no table yet. There's no view. There's no stored procedures. There is no function, right? So that is how to create a database, right? So that database has been created. So if I now say use, because I want to use that database now, if I now say use friends, what happens, right? I execute that. Now, friends is the database. Can you see schema now has changed to friends? Friends is now the database I'm using. Everything that I'm doing now, I want to do inside friends. So I want to create a table, right? Anytime you see an hash like this starting a word, it is a comment, right? It's a programming comment, not the comment in SQL, right? So creating a table in the friends to create a table is called my underscore friends. So the question will be, why did I use underscore, right? We use underscore to replace space. Anytime you're going to use space and you don't want to use an ambiguous name, right? You use, so I can either use my underscore friends, or I use something like my friend, right? Are you following me? So, but I usually prefer the underscore. So I use my friend. So I'm creating, create table, sorry. So the statement is create table, my friend, right? And you can look at it. The keyword is in blue. The keyword, I say again, is in blue, right? So that is the name of my table, my friend. Now, what is the next? I would open a column, a bracket, right? I would open a bracket. Let me show you. Can you see? Friends, create table depth, then you open a bracket. Every column or the attributes must be in that bracket, right? I will open that bracket. I can open that bracket. The bracket can be beside it or just down like this. And I'm going to say, what is the first column? I say friend ID, friend underscore ID. What is the data type? Init, right? And I'm going to say, okay, let's just put a comma. So once you are done with that one, I've defined the name, I've defined the data type. I say init, and I put a comma. Then the next thing would be all right. So friend, my friend must have a name. So I say friend, I say first name, first underscore first underscore name, right? And this time around, what is my data type? My data type is varchar. Right? What is the length? Length is versatility. Close that. My friend must have a last name, last underscore name. I'm using the same varchar in 30 as well. That's the length, right? My friend must have an email address, email, say varchar as well. Let's call that 40, right? Put a comma. Phone number, right? Phone underscore number. Right, my friend must have phone number, so I'll call that varchar as well. Because maybe the phone number is going to start with +234. Do you understand? So I'm doing that. I'm calling that, let's call that 15 in length for those who stay abroad, right? What else again? My friend must have, say, WhatsApp number, WhatsApp underscore number, right? Say varchar. I think I should use this database to archive my friend's information as well. Right? What other information? Date of birth, right? So I can call that DOB, right? The DOB of my friend. This time around, it's a date. So I'm just going to put date data type, right? Date data type. It does not have length, just date, right? What else do they have? Maybe occupation. Varchar. What's the length of this? We say 25, right? Country underscore residence, right? Where do they stay? Varchar, right? Varchar gives me another 25 in length, right? What else do I want to do? What else do I want to do? Right? Okay, so let's just end it there, right? Country of residence. Let's just end it there, right? Now I double that question mark. Remember that I opened a question mark here. Can you see? Once I click the first question mark, once I click the first bracket, it tells me that this is the ending of it. Any bracket that you click, can you see? It will tell you the ending so that you can identify the bracket that is open that was not closed, right? Can you see? It will tell you that this is my opening, this is my closing. Once you click on it, this is my opening, this is my closing, right? So I've just created this table. So if I select all of this, right? If I select all of this, now, of course, I have to end it with a semicolon, right? Very important, very important. So if I select all of this as it were, and I click on execute, I hope you're seeing me, and I click on execute. Can you see? It's telling me that what? It is running, right? I'm not sure if you see what happened, if you saw what happened, right? It ran and it created. Can you see? It ran and it created. Can you see? This is the statement. It ran and it got created, right? Now, this has been created. It's telling me that it took 3.906 seconds for it to create it, right? This has been created. Praise God. We created our first table, right? We've created our first table. Glory. Right? Bravo. Now, how do we know that we have created our table? If I come back to this place and I reload this guy, right? And I reload it, this guy. Can you see friends? Can you see our friends is selected? Can you see that before it didn't have this arrow on table, but now he has an arrow. If I click on that arrow and come down, can you see my underscore friend? Remember that that's the name of the table that we created. My underscore friend. Can you see? That is the table that we created. Isn't that beautiful? Right? That's the table that we created. So we have created our first table. We have created our first table. So your first assignment, please put that down. The first assignment, first assignment for today, assignment. Try and share this codes with you. That's why I'm trying to keep them neat. Share this codes with you after class as well, so that you have something to revise as you're watching the video. So I'll share this code with you as we continue. Hold on, please. Hold on, please. Right, so assignment is using entities created from the last assignment, convert entities
Hello, sir.
to a table. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. Still.
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. I can hear you. I can hear you. Hello, ma. I can hear you.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you.
Please, did you run this statement? Did you run the statement? Did you run the statement after you created it?
I ran it already. See, this is it here. I ran it already.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was not here. I quickly went to do something. You run the statement.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Please, can I just see it when you run it?
Eh? I have run the statement. See, if I run it again, it tell me that it has
Please,
been
can I just
created.
see the way it is when you?
Okay, I'll show you. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah. That has been created. Okay. And what was the output? Okay.
The output, I'll show you the output. Don't worry. I'll show you the output. I'll show you the output. Just
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So, sir, normally, sir, can I go on?
Please go ahead.
Okay, normally, right? If you want to create like a data, say data type that you use name underscore something. Wait, let me check. That you use maybe first name, like first underscore name, then
Yes.
middle name and last underscore name. So is it possible to do full underscore name, like so that you can accommodate the two names, maybe Vivian Agbata?
Well,
Instead
yes,
of
you can
separating
do.
them,
You can.
or is there any
You can.
rule I say you should separate?
You can do that, right? But in the database, right? Or in can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Now, yes, you can do that and combine the names together.
Yes,
right?
sir.
But in the use and creation of databases, right? And that's why SQL is not Excel. In Excel, right, it is accommodated that you can join two of those kind of attributes together. But in SQL, right, in creating a database, an ideal database, you don't join two variables together. First name is different from middle name, is different from last name. So they must be different. they must be in different columns. They must be different variables, right? If you create a database and you join the full names together, any organization that accepts that from you, they're supposed to shoot both of you and get you out of the company, right?
Okay.
Because you do not combine those kind of information together. So in collecting your data points, you should know the data that can be put together and the ones that they cannot be put together, right? And that is why we don't just jump into creating a table. Of course, what I just did now is because I have experience and I'm able to think very fast and all that, right? And but of course, for information about students, this is not everything that can be kept. There's so many things that can be stored for students, for friends, right? So in your creation of your database, you must be able to identify all the attributes, all the characteristics and properties of an entity. They are individual variables. So when you have a component like name, so take for example, let me give you an example, address, right? When you have address, right, you do not combine the addresses together and say number 17, Adeni Bankole Street, Ogun State or Lagos State, Nigeria. No, right? The address is different. What you do is the number 17 Adeni Bankole can be together, right? Because that describes the street. And you call that street. If that street is in a local government area, that local government area is another attribute. If that local government area is in a state, the state is another attribute. If that state is in a country, that country is another attribute. So you don't join those kind of data together. Now, why? Such that you can do grouping, you can do filtering of your data. You can group and say, I want to see all the people in Lagos State. If you had added everything together in your address, you will not be able to do that kind of filtering. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, assignment, use the entities created from the last assignment and convert these entities to a table, right? So, for those who just created one entity, right? Please go back and I showed you the example that I showed you. Please do something like that and use something like that to create these tables. I need at least 5 tables from each person. 5 tables from each person. 5 tables from each person. 5 entities into 5 tables. So this is what.
So we're going to create 5 tables now.
Yes, like this. You create 5 tables. So I've created my own first one. My friend, I can create another information about. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Sir, okay, let me ask. So that means once we are done and we've closed the statement.
Sir. Are we going to create a...
Hello.
Then we can go ahead to create a table again.
I didn't get
Sir,
that.
are we going to create five tables?
Yes, 5 different tables. Yes, you are creating 5 different tables. Like this one that I showed you. I showed you this, right? I showed us this. Hold on. I showed us this, right? Kudos to you, Vivian. I've praised you before you joined class, right? I showed us this and I said this is how you create an AR diagram, right? And look at it. She has employees and all the attributes, citizens and all the attributes, cost and all the attributes, order and all the attributes. So this is how product and all the attributes. So this is how. Now what she just needs to do is convert this information into a table. Do you understand? So this is what I'm talking about. Here she has 5 tables already. So I want everybody to do something like this, right? Everybody tried, but this is the most. This person answered everything. I've said all of this before, right? I don't want to praise her. She has done the SQL before. So, but I praised you before you joined. You did not join on time to collect fine comments, right? So I want everybody to do something like this, right? The only difference or the only markdown that I said I have for this kind of data is that the entities are not related to each other. How does employee relate with citizen? How does citizen relate with cost? How does cost relate with order? And how does order relate with product, right? And I said that if you are doing yours, make sure that you have informations that are entities that relate with each other. Entities that relate with each other. Entities that relate with each other. But this is how I want it created. This is how I want it created, right?
Sorry, sir, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sir. The table you say we should create is just exactly how you did this one for today. That you said, okay, fine. So once we are done with creating the data type, creating the table and then the data type and all that, putting the integer vector and the rest, and close it with the double kini and then the semicolon, we should go again and do create table, another table again that is
yes,
the next
that is
table.
how. Yes.
Okay. And then once we execute, all of them is going to execute.
You execute them one after the other. Once you finish this one now, you select it, you run it, right?
Oh, okay.
Anytime you want to execute a query on this workbench, you have to select it and run it. If you run everything together, if I come here and I run like this, it will give me an error. Look at it. Can you see? It gave me an error because it's running all the statements together. If you do not select and you just click on run, it will run all the commands or the statements in this workbench all together. So you select and run, select and run, select and run.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so we select it line by line. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Not line by line. This is a block of code, right? This is a block of code. All of these are together. If you look at it, there is a minus sign here that is telling me that if I click on this minus sign, look at it. All that code has been compressed into together. Do you understand? All that code has been, because it belongs to one single code. Do you understand what I'm saying? All that code belongs to one single code. This is a different 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 code, right? That's why I'm able to compress it together like this. This is a different code. So if I want to run this now, I have to run it separately. If there's another one below it and I want to run that one, I have to run that one separately as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Please, I have a question as well.
Okay.
Go ahead. Can you go back to Yes. You were just using varchar, integer, and the bracket 25 and all that. Does it mean that we shouldn't put example a phone number? We should not put a phone number on it yet.
Phone number. You cannot put phone number here. So you cannot come here and say 08029. No. You cannot do that here. This is just designing. Look at it. See, this is what you have, right? After I've created this, hold on. After I've created this, right? If I want to see what I've created, what I just need to do is, I wanted to talk about this later. I describe my table, right? I describe. What's the name of my table? My friend. My underscore friend. Right? If I run this statement, look at the output. Hold on, it's fetching. Look at the output. Can you see the output?
Yes.
Everybody, can you see the output? This is the structure of your table. Look at it. Friend ID. Is that not the first column that we declared? Friend ID.
Yes.
Integer. Can you see? Vaca 2. I mean Vaca 30. Last name Vacha 30. Email address Vaca 40. Phone number Vacha 50. WhatsApp number Vacha 50. 15. Date of birth. Date. Occupation Vacha 25. Residence Vacha 25. Right? This is the structure. What that means is that this table does not have any data yet. If you want to see the structure of the table, what you do is you describe it, right? You can describe it using the describe full word, using the whole describe like this, or you write and say DES. This is describe. So if I say describe my friend, it's the same thing as describe that I wrote earlier. These two statements are the same. You can write it in full like this, or you can write it in short like this, right? Just abbreviate the describe to DES. They run the same statement. So if I run this again, it will give me the same, can you see? The same result. The same result. Gives me the same result, right? So that is how to see what you have created. Of course, after you have reloaded your schema side there and you've seen it inside your table, you can now describe it to see the structure, right?
Okay. I'm asking if you want to impute the name, like the first name. When will
Yes,
you do that?
Don't worry, we've not gotten to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Get to that right. Any other question?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. So we should create our own database.
Yes, you are creating. Yes. So first thing is, thank you. The first thing is you create your own database. Remember that I created my own database, friends. Create your own database using the create database, right? Hold on. Assignment Abi. Thank you for reminding me. Assignment. All right. So number 1. This is number 2. Number 1. Create a database with your name of choice. Right? Now, inside that database, then do question 2. Right? So the first thing is you create a database. Then inside that database, you now create 5 different tables. So create using the entities created from the last assignment, convert these entities to tables. Convert these entities to tables. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But the attributes, yes, sir, is clear. The attribute doesn't have to be a particular number. We can use as many attributes as we want.
As many as you think you can create, right? But don't create 2 attribute tables for me. Create at least 5 attributes. At least 5 attributes.
Okay.
Any question? I think we should stop here today. This is almost 7:30, right? Even though we're not able to do enough as I want us to do today, but at least we're making progress. Lola, I didn't hear from you. I want to believe you are with us. I know Luapo is not even in class anymore. Ibukun, I didn't hear from you as well. John, I have not heard from you as well. But I hope you are following and hope you are enjoying the class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
John.
So I have a question.
Lola is here. Lola. Hold
Yes,
on,
sir.
John. Yes, you said you have a question.
Oh,
Yes,
no,
I
not
do.
me. I didn't say.
Who said that? Who asked the question? Is it Vivian?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Let's say First, okay, I just took correction from what you said. That means your data points must be related. More like you have product, you have maybe there's customer, there's product, there is order. So your data points are the, let's say, the customer, product, and order.
Yes.
And you have attributes, around all of them. So now, if you want to create the table, like name the table, I don't know. Is it all, you can't use all the data points them to name it? And then where do you impute the data points when you're creating the table? I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like, let's say you, out of the three, you pick customer as your table. So how do you put the products, put the order, or we just take those ones out, then just create the entities for them? I'm confused.
Hold on. Don't be confused. She created this, Ravi. This is your assignment. She created this, right?
Yes,
This is an entity, right? That has its own attributes. This is a different object. Employee is a different object. Citizen is a different object. It has its own attribute, right? Cost is a different object. It has its own attribute. Order is a different object. It has its own attribute. Customer is a different object. It has its own attribute, right? If you want to create a table now, you are saying employees, create table, employees. Then you begin to name each of these attributes as a column. When you are done with that, you say create table, citizen. Then you begin to name all the what? All the attributes around it as your column. Do you understand it now?
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Right? But what I said is that this kind of data, these entities are not related to each other, right? Because there is I don't see any relation. The only place I see a relationship is, and you didn't even know, but I understand, it is order and product, right? Order and product, right? Maybe a kind of relationship is there, but your data has to be related, right? The data has to be. That's why I said in the assignment, it has to be data point from your work or business. That way, they can be related. You don't just pick data point from everywhere. It has to be related. That is what makes a sensible database. The database is not just to keep data. It has to be sensible. It has to be something that we can derive information from. I hope that is clear. All right.
Yes,
Any other question? John, I've not heard from you. Where are you?
I've been following. I don't have any question.
So you understand everything that we've talked about?
More or less.
Has become insolvent.
All right. All right. So please do your assignment. Submit your assignment to my email. Now, the way you're going to do it is you're going to submit your assignment. Sorry, you're going to create your assignment. And now let me show you this. This is what you're going to do, right? So everybody, I want you to look up. Let me close this one. Right. So this is the code for today. I'm going to share the code with you now, right? So that you can have it as well. Right. This is the code for today, right? Just hold on. I don't like the name that is on top of there. So let me just cut this. Let me close this. Right. So I open a new query tab. Right. Awesome. And I paste all my codes here. All right, good. So now this is my code, right? I want to save this code. Please look at me. I want to save this code. How do I save it? I come to file, then I come to save script as, save what? Script as, right? Save script as. So it's going to give me it's going to give me this save box, so I can easily say that first class C2, right? I'm going to say first class C2, and I'm saving as what? .sql. I'm saving as what? .sql. Why are we saving that .sql? So that you can easily open it with your with your workbench, my SQL workbench. So if I save this, I'm saving it as what? In Navita SQL, that's on desktop. So if I save that, right? If you look at it, the name of the document is going to change. Can you see? First class C2, right? I'm going to share this code with you. after we're done with class, right? I'm going to share this code with you after we're done with class. So I'm going to be adding, this is the code that I'm going to be updating all through for the class so that all the codes are in one single place, right? So we're going to have that. Then I'm also going to share another model, another database model with us, maybe during the week, so that you can look through it. But I'm going to share this with you now. I'm going to share this with you once we finish class. Any other questions, please? If there are no questions, I hope that today's class was insightful and you learned something. I hope that you would go back. I will also share the video link so that you can, maybe by this night if possible, tomorrow, so that you can have them and go through them during the week, right? So that you can go through them during the week and understand, go through them, read them, listen again, watch them, use them to do your assignment and understand them, right? And that is how we build, that is how we learn, right? Thank you for coming. Yes?
Sorry, sir. Please, I would like to know how Vivian was able to do the drawings of the assignment.
That's Microsoft. Well, to do the drawings like this, what you do is you come to insert. Okay. The document is in protected view. I have to save it and all that. You come to insert, then you come to shapes, right? You see shapes. Under shapes, you see all these shapes there, right? You see all these shapes. You'll be able to draw these shapes from there. So insert, then to shapes. And you see illustration. Under illustration, you see shapes. So you'll be able to draw those shapes there. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yes, sir. Is it Microsoft Word or Excel?
No, she used Microsoft Word.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? Any other
Okay, sir,
question?
this one, the one we want to do now. Sir, this one you gave us now, so we should copy it on Notepad and submit it.
Which one? The assignment?
After we are through with this, yes, the assignment, this present one.
No, that's why I just taught you how to save your scripts, right? I just taught you how to save your scripts. Once you are done, right, it is this script that I want you to send to me. You send this script to my...
Okay, that we should send to you.
Yes, you send to my email, right? You send that script to my email. That's how to work as a developer. So when you... This is where I save mine. Where is it? So this is where I save mine. I just copy it. I just attach it to my email, then I send it. Right, this one I'll be dropping this one on the WhatsApp group for you, so that you can download and go through. You can download and go through. Cohort 2. Let's share that already. All right, so you can download this from your WhatsApp or from the WhatsApp group, right? You can download this from the WhatsApp group, right? So you have the codes now. That's what that means. You have the codes now. Any other question, please?
No, sir, I don't have any question. So we can go.
Right. So we'll be able to continue from next class. Thank you for coming. If you have any question, you can still ask your questions on the WhatsApp group so that we can continue. Please submit your assignment. I'm going to give another assignment tomorrow, so it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be ethical, and that's the only way you can know. You can know by doing. So please, if you have not done any of my assignments, please do this assignment. Of course, that's why this assignment is dependent on the first assignment, and I'll try as much as possible to do that as we go on. And that's the only way to learn, right? I know that we are busy, but like I said, find time, 1 hour every day, That's 7 hours per week on SQL, right? And you can just say, okay, I know I'll be home by 7. I'll do everything that I need to do, and from 9 to 10 before I go to bed, I'll just go through it, right? And if you are somebody who likes midnight reading, just wake up and just do 1 hour. It's enough, right? And before you know it, your love for it will increase it, right? And my students usually bring testimonies, right? From the people that I taught the last time, a few of them have already gotten jobs, right? I don't want to expose this chat, but just while we're having class now, he just showed me, and he just showed me that he got a job about 2 weeks ago, and they did a probation or a test period for them for 2 weeks, and he came out as the best student, just because he has learned a few things from me already, right? And of course, you know that he has been, but just basically just learning a few things from me now. He has a job, and I can count more and more. A few guys are actually waiting on a foreign company to actually respond to them. They passed about 2-3 interviews and all that just by learning from here, right? So please, I need you to put your minds to it and do your best, right? Do your best to understand this. You will see a reward for it. Don't worry. In fact, I have another class that is coming up, probably will start in another few weeks, which is visualization. If I see how you perform well, I will probably, and you see that you're interested, I can introduce you guys to you so that if you're interested, you can do all of them at the same time. It does not, right? I don't know. It depends. We'll talk about that later. But the next batch, I mean, the first batch that did the SQL training, they are moving into visualization already. And that means that they are growing in the whole field as it were. So please don't take this for granted. Of course, you paid for it. Don't take this for granted. Put all your energy to it, and you will get a result. Thank you for coming to this class. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night, ma'am. Good night, everyone. You can leave class now.
Okay.